So we're in a nice dense sward of grass here, and what I wanted to demonstrate was the level of aggregation that we're seeing when we have a lot of roots in the ground. So you see all of these little, I call them curds, they're sort of like cheese curds, or we call it the cottage cheese of the soil. But you see all of these little soil curds here. These are soil aggregates, and that's what we're wanting to see. And these soil particles are glued together by those biotic glues, the glomalin produced by the mycorrhizal fungi, and the other biotic glues produced by other species of fungi as well as soil bacteria. So the more biological activity we get in here, and the more balanced that biological activity is relative bacteria to fungi, then the more aggregation we're going to see. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing a soil aggregate that's starting at the surface of the soil and penetrating down as far as we could get the shovel today. So we are able to, once you're able to build a nice deep aggregate layer, this becomes like a sponge, and your soil is able to rapidly absorb and retain any rainfall that you get. So in spite of the fact that they've been in a significant drought here, we still have cool, moist soil down deeper, and that's exactly what we're looking for. The other thing that we note, as I was talking about with the plants, and we could tell degree of secondary metabolites produced by a plant by aroma, we can tell a lot by the soil by its aroma as well. So soil that has a high level of biological activity, it has a lot of aggregates, and meaning that it has a good balance between bacteria and fungal activity in the soil, particularly mycorrhizal fungal activity, then that soil is going to have a very earthy and pleasing aroma. And that's precisely what we're looking for. We're looking for a deep, rich, earthy aroma that smells very, very good. And most of us that grew up in agriculture remember that aroma from our childhood, and over the intervening decades, due to continued soil degradation, that's been lost. Now, if a lot of our agricultural soils today are highly bacteria-centric, and the way that we know that is both by the lack of soil aggregates, but also by the aroma of the soil. So the soil that is highly bacteria-centric will have an off-putting aroma, and it can smell alternately metallic, sour, acidic, or musty. So any of those smells or aromas are not desirable. They indicate that we have either too high a level of anaerobic activity in the soil with a lot of anaerobic bacteria working, or that we just have a high degree of bacteria altogether between anaerobic and aerobic. So this soil is definitely developing a more earthy aroma to it, which is precisely what we want. And then as we pull this up, then we can see aggregates clinging to these roots. And that's exactly what we want to see. So all of these little curds of soil hanging to the roots, those are soil aggregates. And the other thing that we want to note is at the soil surface, this degree of thatch. Now, in well-managed soil, where we're always keeping it protected, we're going to have some thatch on the surface of the soil, and that's important. Now, obviously, this is old, dead plant material that will eventually be broken down by beetles and earthworms and springtails and other organisms, but also by saprophytic fungi that lives near the surface of the soil to help break this down further, to turn it into new humus, new organic matter. Now, this thatch layer is about right. It doesn't have a lot of thickness to it. It's relatively thin. It's enough to protect and keep our soil mulched and moisturized, but it's not so much that it indicates we're not getting microbial breakdown of this thatch and insect breakdown of this thatch. So again, we've got a nice thatch layer here, but if we were to have a thatch layer that was several inches thick, then that indicates that we have buildup of this carbon on top of the soil with nothing breaking that excess carbon down. So we don't have the biological activity necessary to get that done. So here we've got a good carbon to nitrogen ratio working for us that's allowing us to be able to both break down the thatch on top of the soil, turn that into new organic matter, and as we said, we've got all of these aggregates that we can see clinging to the root hairs down here, and we see all this cottage cheese appearance in the soil here. So this is particularly important in droughty weather. When you get very dry, then this type of aggregation will hold and retain a lot more moisture so that this grass can continue to thrive. And obviously, we're in a very, very dense stand of grass here. It's hard to even push down through the sward to get to the soil surface. And so even though Steve and Judy have been in a pretty significant drought here, you know, this grass is growing extremely well. So it's obviously this aggregate layer is doing its job, capturing moisture, retaining that moisture.